to reflect on what Applewood Achievers Toastmaster has achieved, and more importantly, what is still to come for the club. In the summary of his fact-finding report, Paul outlines the next steps for the club, as well as recommendations on how Applewood could effectively progress from a newly chartered club to a truly established Toastmasters club. Paul Nichols, the next evolution of Applewood Achievers Toastmasters. The next evolution of Applewood Achievers Toastmasters, Paul Nichols.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. So it's true what Don said. I'm counting down the days. So as that time whittles down, oh, no. I said whittles down. I'm going to try to wheedle you into seeing how the next evolution of Applewood Achievers should unfold itself. And I'm going to do that. I'm doing that after I have reviewed where we are, my experience as president, and as well as my experience in a more established club as just a new member, and knowing what new members can sometimes feel. So what I've done is I've drawn from aspects of two documents and a third piece. So it's not the full. These aren't the full documents, mainly because my office would have gotten very upset with that mistake being spelled. But you have an excerpt from the Distinguished Club Program and Club Success Plan, the Speech Contest Rule Book, and finally, Pathways Example Levels 1 and 2 for my own path that I have yet to start. So we're a fully chartered club now, and I was thinking about the process of moving from that chartering process into our first full year as a regular club. And so there's some things that we didn't do last year because we couldn't as a prospect club that are going to become maybe not the center of our universe, but very central to our activities, or at least to the executive's view of our activities, because they impact how we're seen at a larger level, at the area level, at the district level, or the division level and the district level. And what I try to do is I try to use these documents to go through the normal Toastmaster year and parse out the key pieces and really how they should be approached and who they should be approached by, or at least led by. In the end, what I decided when I'm advocating for you is that certain pieces should be handled will be handled by the executive, because that's the only people that within the club that can handle it. But then there's some other pieces that really anybody could take on, but we probably should have some slightly senior Toastmasters leading the charge. And then there's others where everybody is going to contribute directly or indirectly, and we really just need to make sure that everybody is focused on that. And so what I'll do is I'll start by telling you the key pieces in the Toastmaster year that I came out with, and then work through those to kind of describe what needs to be done. Some of them will be quite quick because this is a short speech, and some I'll get to a little more depth. So as you go through the Toastmasters year, you have a couple of key pieces. The incoming executive needs to meet. They need to conduct plans for what that year is going to look like, and find respective roles for people. And that is obviously the exec role, because they're the ones meeting and they will parse out these details. We were talking earlier about the club officer training, which is underway. Again, that's something that only the officers can do, but it's something that leads into another piece that everybody can do. Regular meetings obviously are going to continue. And then we have contests. And now contests are something I'm going to get into in a little more depth. We also have the district conference, which is a piece that anybody can be involved with, but is actually handled at a much more senior level. So it's something that we can really encourage members to do, but it's nothing that we have to stress ourselves over. The Distinguished Club Program is the other really central piece that I'm going to get into along with the contests. And then finally, the last piece is new member drives, which is that everybody's going to get involved, But really, anybody can lead that charge because it is about just outreach, and everybody should be doing outreach. So I'm going to return to those two key pieces that I told you: contests and DCM, or Distinguished Club Program. We didn't do a contest last year because, as a prospective club, we weren't allowed to. But in any given year, there's always at least one contest, and there's usually two contests. I believe there was only one last year, or there were two? Okay, so there were, generally there's two, or maybe there can be, two in the spring and two in the fall, depending on how the district decides to do it. The contests are started at the club level. After that, they move on to the area, division, and district level. This is something that really does take the entire club to get to work. But what you'll see if you look in the contest rules, just open up to that first page, you start to see the level of detail you have to go into to organize the speech. You have things like eligibility, who's in good standing, who's not, understanding those pieces. On the second page, the general procedures. And then you start to see the number of people you're going to need. You're going to need a contest chair, a chief judge, 5 judges, a tie-breaking judge, 3 counters, 2 timers, and then you have the contestants. This can be intimidating for a first timer. So really, this is a piece that is going to happen for the club. It's going to need to happen, but I'm going to suggest that a more senior and experienced Toastmaster, someone that's at least gone through a contest experience, I would suggest that they be the one to serve as contest chair this year. Things like membership drives, anybody can be the chair of that because it's a pretty straightforward process of working with people to get the word out. Contest chair, there's a lot of rules and they can be really picky sometimes. And they can be really picky sometimes. The other piece I'm going to go into is the Distinguished Club Program. This is one where the VP of Ed will manage this, but really it's everybody's role to be cognizant of this. So I'm going to ask you to go to what is set page 7. It looks like goals to achieve at the end. There are 10 sections to the Distinguished Club Program. A large majority of them focus around education. You have you have 2 pieces around membership, with the goal of gaining at least 8 new members. There's an administrative piece that the executive has to handle about getting payments in on time, executive lists on time, and then the training, which is also that officer training that we've gone through. But the bulk of the work comes in education. And this is a piece that everybody needs to be involved in, because that's where you get the majority of the points. And once you hit a certain number, then you become 5 out of 10, you become what's called a distinguished club. And then the next level up is select distinguished club, and then finally, if you get 9 out of 10, then you get president's distinguished club. So you can't get those higher levels unless you start to hit these education pieces. So we have members here that are already at or very close to finishing their level 1. We have ones that will very likely this year finish level 2. And so you can see is how many members need to finish each of these to start to get a point. So under the leadership of the VP of Education, what I would definitely encourage is everyone to be constantly cognizant of what's going on around this program. There's certain pieces that more senior members will have to do, like for example myself, I'll likely be bringing some of the advanced communicator goal, hopefully my DTM this year. But there's a lot of points to be gained in this area. You can get up to 6 points, and so 3 or 4 could come from new members just doing their first set of students. Knowing that I'm going to save some time for questions, but I'm going to leave it at that. Really, and just recap that this Toastmasters year is going to look much different than last year. You have Distinguished Club Program, you have officer training, you have contest to consider. There are a range of things that can be handled by, some can be handled by junior members, but I would say certainly the club contest needs to be handled by a more senior Toastmaster. The executive will lead everything as always, but then when we get to that Distinguished Club Program, that really helps identify us as an established club, a club that's serious about being a Toastmaster, or about being Toastmasters. That needs to be all hands on deck, everyone being cognizant, and if you have questions, constantly ask those, make sure that that you get credit by talking to the VP of Ed, and constantly strive to ensure that we are working to get the most points we can, so that a year from now, we're celebrating the fact that we got 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, and that in our first full year as a regular established club, we are a President's Distinguished Club. Thank you very much for this time, and I'll continue questions.
About the speech contest, it was just unclear. Is that at the local level, or is that at a regional level? So when you said about having judges, that this is within our club? Within our club.
So you have speeches all the way up to the district level, and then you have one speech, the international speech, which is at the international level. But they always start locally. And so when I was reading out the list of roles to be filled, there's a key piece in there that I will say, it gives us a little bit of an out. At the very end of section 5A1, it lists all the roles, and then it says, unless impractical. So there is a piece that does say, if you can't get a chief judge, a tie-breaking judge, 5 regular judges, but you can get the tie-breaking judge, the chief judge, and 3 judges, that can be seen as, okay, well, that's what we can do practically to make this make it effective. But again, that's the kind of nuance that can be a little confusing, so it's often better to have someone that has gone through the process and knows what can come up, and knows the challenges sometimes of recruiting people to these roles, and can explain those roles to people. But it always starts at the club level, and then goes up from there, where if you have enough contestants, up to 2 contestants will go from the club level to the area level, and then it progresses from there.
Is the contest completely separate from achieving the distinguished club, or is it necessary for
no? That is the one piece that really is a bit separate from everything else that the club does. It's a chance for, and really what it is a chance for members to take it to the next level and say, okay, I've done it in front of my colleagues. Let me see if I can do it at a higher level, get through the club level contest, and see how I match up against some of the best in a larger area. And then on to the division and the district the same way.
With membership support too, right?
Always, yeah.
If you make it to that level, we come up and support you.
Absolutely, and that's the other piece that will come out. Once the club contests are done, there will be a call from the area director to say, we need help in organizing the area contest. We need judges, we need ballot counters, we need every piece that we have at the club level, we're going to need at the area level. So you'll need support in that way, and then you'll need support from the members just to come up and say, congratulations, you made it past the club. We want to see you make it, we want to see you do your best at the area level, and maybe even make it up to the next level, and so on and so forth. Thank you for that question. Do you have any other questions? Yes, Amanda.
Can you, and maybe you explained this, but I'm doing multiple things. Can you explain the concept of Distinguished Club and the different components underneath that,
Absolutely.
and why we would want to move to that level?
Okay, I'm going to start with the very last piece that you said.
Okay.
The reason that we would want to proceed with that is because it really is, within the Toastmasters world, the way that a club highlights themselves to everybody else in the area and says, we are very serious about being a top-notch club. We have a lot of dedication to the program. We believe in the Toastmasters program, and we show that by making sure that we execute things as flawlessly as we can. And so it starts, it breaks down into the various pieces, like I said, except for speeches or speech contests, the aspects of running a club and making sure that members are getting the most out of that club, and that's the. And that's why it breaks down into pieces such as the administrative piece would be one where there's a requirement to make sure that your dues are in on time and that your executive list is in on time. That's just making sure that you can do good housekeeping, good administrative as an executive. You have a piece where you have to make sure that the officers are trained, acknowledging that there's going to be turnover of officers and there's new things that are going to come up. So even if you were an officer previously, you may have some new piece of information that you need to know. And so by doing that, meeting those requirements of 4, at least at a minimum of 4 officers in fall trained and 4 in the spring trained, you ensure that people looking in and going, okay, they met that requirement. They're serious about knowing what's going on in Toastmasters and how to do their role as best as they can. And then you start to get into the other pieces, such as the key pieces for club members on a whole, which is their experience. You know, it used to be, you know, leadership and speeches separated out. With pathways, it's merged kind of into one. But what that shows to everyone else is that the members and the executive and the mentors are working together to make sure that members come in and don't just hang out, but they actually are engaged in giving those speeches and that they're moving through the Toastmasters process. You don't have a room of 20 or 30 people all at level 1.
Right.
There's some level 2s, there's some level 3s. You've got some distinguished Toastmasters so that you have a well-rounded club and people from the outside can look in and go, you know what, those junior members are getting real benefit from the experience of the senior members, the mentorship, and the senior members are getting the benefit of fresh ideas, fresh insights, and seeing those new members grow. So the Distinguished Club program as a whole kind of works to make sure that the club functions as a well-oiled machine and allows other people that look in and say, can look for that designation, or the different levels of that designation, go, they really have their act together. That's the kind of club I want to belong to. I'm moving into this area, or I need to change clubs. This is the one I want to go to. So that's really it.
Thank you.
It looks like we're running out of time, so I'll thank you for those questions, and thank you for listening to the speech.